start, I want to ask you, when were you first aware of the Solomon Kane?
Oh gosh, well, I've been a fan since a teenager, so I read Michael Moorcock and Stephen Donaldson and Julian May, and of course, Robert Howard is part of the canon of writers that you read. I was aware of him because I read, Conan's The Cimarron and Cull and Kane. I read him, he passed me by. I never thought I'd get back to make a movie, 20 years later. So when I was asked by the producers if they had this character, Solomon Kane, would you be interested in being involved? This sort of teenage enthusiasm flows back. So 25 years I've known about him, but only then go back and rereading the stories, you realise what an amazingly powerful character he is. So, it's a good opportunity that couldn't be missed, really.
And were you aware of Solomon Kane and Robert E. Howard before?
I was aware of Robert E. Howard, yeah, but no, Solomon Kane, I think like a lot of people here, they didn't know Solomon Kane what I guess. So, no, I was aware of Conan and Red Sonny and those characters, but what a character he is. Just remarkable, really good character.
Just for me as well, a lot of people see him as a comic book character because of the Marvel comics and the collected works that you can get. He was always a literary figure for me. I never really liked comics for him that much, so it was a much more a sense of this is a literary adaptation of a movie rather than a comic book movie. So it's just a slightly different approach to him. And I've later come back to look at the comics, and there's some great artwork in them as well. And the stories are kind of very vividly told, but it was the stories, it was the short stories. Poetry, not so much initially. I read the poetry again when we started thinking about the movie, but it was just those great stories.
What was the biggest challenge? I should picture. What was the biggest challenge, or what kind of sequence or set piece was kind of the most difficult to stage?
You can see it's quite a physical movie in the sense that it's real. We put rain and snow and mud and wind, so in that sense of trying to make it feel like it's a real adventure, a real fantasy adventure. It's got the magic and the sorcery in there, but I wanted it to take place in a world which felt like it had real qualities to it. So anytime it was raining, pretty much was hard. It was the Czech winter, so that gets pretty chilly. You guys are used to chilly, but for us Brits, we have very mild winters. So we go -5, -10, and you're throwing rain down on everybody. 60,000 litres a day in some cases on poor old James in just a shirt. So I think the crucifixion scene was pretty challenging. You suffered that day, I think.
I think the crucifixion scene was probably tough. No, for me, actually, I had to say, with fighting the guy who was on fire. At the end, that was particularly challenging, particularly because he was the most awesome fucking swordsman you've ever seen in your life. Even when he was on fire. His name was Vladimir. He's one of the best swordsmen in the whole of Europe. He's absolutely extraordinary, and he did this thing to me whereby we did like 4 takes with that, complete, and we would just do the whole fight from beginning to end. And on like the 4th take, I sort of find it slightly alarming, because he comes to me and he's on fire. And it's just a bit spooky, that whole scenario. And he's coming at me once, and he's already got this pipe that goes up his sleeve and then up into the mask, and he's already breathed flames up the pipe and burnt the inside of his mouth. And he insisted on carrying on. Like, no fucking problem, what's the problem? I have no problem with this, it's okay. And I'm fighting him, and it's a 1.5 minute burn. I don't know if you know about full body burns, but like a minute is pretty strong if you're just sitting in a chair, let alone actually having a sword fight at the same time. It's 1.5, 2 minutes, something like that. And I go wrong at one point, and I meant to start coming up, bang, on his left shoulder, and I go right by mistake. And it sort of stops for a second, and then this hand comes out of the ball of flame and just goes. Very cool. Very, very cool.
What did you do to prepare for the role?
I spent, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, I guess 5 months, something like that. I read all of Howard's work, read all of the poems, all of Solomon Kane.
You went to the gym a lot?
Went to the gym a lot, loads. Spent a lot of time looking at Puritans. I had Puritans bizarrely in my own family way back. One of my ancestors signed Charles I's death warrant, and there's a load of papers left over the family talking about his life and, you know, what their life was like as a Puritan, which obviously wasn't a barrel of laughs. Them being sort of the Taliban of the 16th century. And so I did a lot of that, and then I went to the gym, really, a lot, and fought a lot. You know, it was like, I'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours in the gym, 4 hours fighting, 4 hours horse riding, 2 hours running, dead. Start again, 6 o'clock in the morning. You know.
And you peppered it with a lot of great kind of historical tidbits. Can you talk about the significance when Solomon Kane passes by the funeral pyre and there's the bird masks?
That's an image that I had in my head. Those characters that turn the fire came along because they're plague doctors. And the reason the mask is shaped like that is because at the end of that beak is stuffed full of oily rags to prevent the noxious fumes they believed would be around those times. It was just it's an image I had in my head, and I just really wanted to commit it to screen. And so the idea of just Kane passing through this world, which is clearly suffering in some ways, in almost like an abstract way. It's plague, it's suffering, there's evil out there, and then just to be watched silently as these characters see him go by. So there's things like that I wanted to put in there. And if you look at some of the symbolism in there, some of the markings on Kane's body itself, and the markings on the raiders' heads, and that's Enochian magic, which was a magical language which was created by John Dee, an English magician in Elizabeth's court. So the little things like that you put in, which enhance the sort of reality of the magic in many ways. So well, that again, the mirrors comes from this guy John Dee. You know the crystal balls, looking into magical mirrors. That's called scrying. And that's just part of the magical language which came from this guy in that period. So that's what I wanted to do, to put the mirrors in there, put these little symbols and magical marks in there which people can appreciate and look at and enjoy, or just go watch the movie, you know.
And it also led us to point out that it's not only a director, but also the producer of the film, Sammy Hadida, is here. Stand up, Sammy. Because Sammy has produced 4 films in Midnight. This is his 4th film in Midnight Madness, and in the past he has brought us, actually one of the first films I programmed, Freeway 2, earlier on, Crime Freeman, and of course, Brotherhood of the Wolf. And he is also responsible for Killing Zoe and True Romance, and this is his 2nd film in the film festival. He also has The Imagination of Dr. Parnassus as well.